welcome to another episode of Kingdom Inspiration News. I am your host, Gwen Goolsby Tillery, and you know I say this every week because it's true. I am so excited about the guest that I have on with us this morning. This young lady is simply amazing. I love her spirit. I love her ambition. She just seems to move, I will say with no fear, although, we all have a little fear, but she just keeps moving. So she's doing some amazing things. And I am excited to have her on this morning for the Kingdom Spotlight. So welcome to the show, Kenya Linton.
Thank you so much, Gwen, for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. And yes, I'm Kenya Linton from Hustling Spirit, just here to spread some of this Kingdom Inspiration news today.
Great. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm married. I've been married almost 17 years. Next Saturday will be 17 years. I have two sons. My oldest son is 25, and I have a 12-year-old as well, and a 2-year-old grandson who I absolutely adore. And we live in West Deptford, New Jersey. We're in the West Deptford area, so we're here in South Jersey.
Okay, nice. So like I said, she's doing some amazing things. One of the things that you're involved with is, you said Hustling Spirit. What is that about? Tell us a little bit about Hustling Spirit.
Yes. So Hustling Spirit is our business. My husband and myself, my husband Craig, we launched Hustling Spirit. It's a clothing brand, an inspirational clothing brand, Christian based. And we like to call ourselves a lifestyle brand where you feel good when you wear our clothes. All of our brand items are inspired from verses in the Bible. That was something that was given to my husband, and I was just here to be his helpmate to help facilitate it. But Hustling Spirit is all things about God, all things about pushing people towards their purpose and their passion with the energetic tenacity, which since has become more than just a clothing brand, which we can get into later. But it has been just a blessing to us. And we are coming up on our 10th year next year of being in business.
Wow.
Next month.
I can't believe it's been 10 years. You might not remember, but I remember we connected years ago. It was at you don't even remember. I remember. I don't forget people or faces. We were at a fashion show. I can't remember her name, but it was like the South Jersey fashion show.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I didn't realize you were there. That was our very first fashion show.
I remember.
Yes.
I remember back then my husband and I, we've been in the entertainment arena for a while. So back then we were doing some management stuff. And actually one of our clients who was a designer was involved in the show. And I saw your line and I was like, oh man, that's really nice. I'm like, it's good to see young people out here, launching and doing their own thing. And over the years, we have a couple of connections in common. I'm just watching and I'm just looking and I'm like, wow, I know the work that goes into it. Yes. So I know firsthand the work because like I'm an entrepreneur. And at one point I had a t-shirt line that was strictly inspired by the word of God, by scripture as well. So when you said that, I was just like, wow, that's kind of funny. And I ran with it for about 6 years. And I know how much work was involved in, getting those t-shirts out, getting those orders out, making sure that production is moving. It is a lot of work. So to have accomplished, reaching 10 years is no small feat at all. Yeah. So tell us about some of the, so you said it's more than just clothing. Tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah. So, initially when God gave this vision to my husband, his whole focus was, like you said, just creating t-shirts that edify God, that inspire people to want to know more about his word. And that was all that we were thinking we were going to do. But you know how God has a whole nother plan for our lives. So since then, it became a movement where people started to just kind of connect with us to say, you know what, I see where Kenya and Craig came from doing this, because a lot of people may know our story, but we started our business in the middle of a bankruptcy. My husband was flipping houses, the housing market crashed, and so did our funds. So
Wow.
we did not have any money to start our business, but God told us to start this business. So we literally started the business with selling wristbands, silicone wristbands. So we were flipping wristbands like he was flipping those houses. So when people saw us and they knew our story, where we came from nothing and we, got a word from God, and we began to push our business out there, and by any means necessary, people were inspired. And like I can do that. You know what? I'm a hustling spirit. I have a dream. I have a goal. I can go after it, just like Kenya and Craig did. And then it became a movement where, people just kind of just connected with us. And then from there, we started to get into the fashion industry, where we got into the, like you said, fashion shows, and people started to know who we were through doing the fashion shows. And then from there, we began to help other people with their branding needs, where we like doing this for ourselves, but it's so much more fulfilling when you can help somebody else manifest their dreams. So now we do branding for other companies, t-shirts, jackets, bags, things of that sort, using those connections that we've made over the years to now help other entrepreneurs who may not have any startup money like us, can start small with us to get things out. So that's where we've progressed to now becoming a movement, now becoming vision, provision for someone else's vision as well.
I love it. I love every aspect of it from beginning to end. A lot of times when we struggle, we come into those financial difficulties. That's when God gives us this idea. It's that big idea that comes. Yes. And so many times people are afraid to move, because they'll say, well, we don't have the money, we don't have the funds. But what I found is that if you just have the faith,
yes,
you don't necessarily need the funds.
So
you need to have the faith.
Absolutely.
If you have the faith to take the first step, to make the first move, yes, God will begin to open the right doors. Yes. He will begin to connect you with the right people. And before you know it, something that you didn't even think was possible, yes, has grown into a 10-year, extremely successful business. Yes. I just have to say that for someone who is watching, that you've had that idea in your mind, you wake up to it every single morning, it's always at the forefront. You can't get rid of it no matter what you do, and you haven't, yes, moved in it. If this story doesn't inspire you, then I don't know what. Literally, like you said, almost you said bankrupt?
Bankrupt. Yes,
bankrupt.
Everything but our house was.
So listen, but I've heard that expression when you're down to nothing, God is up to something.
Something.
He's up to something. And so again, you just need to have that faith to be able to move in it, even when you don't see the full picture.
Absolutely.
So, amazing story. So not only do you have this amazing, I don't even want to say it's a clothing, but a brand. There's a whole brand behind it.
Yes.
You also mentioned that now your goal is to be able to inspire other people to move in what it is that God has placed in them.
Yes.
I heard something this morning. I was listening to Clubhouse, and this is, I so agree with this. One of my favorite scriptures is that your gifts will make room for you and bring you before great men. Amen. I so believe that, but it doesn't happen if we don't operate in them.
Absolutely.
I truly believe God has equipped every single person with something.
Yes.
He's given you the deposits. He's already made the deposits.
Yes.
The question is, are you showing the dividends?
Exactly. How about that? Yes.
Okay. The deposits already been made.
Right.
Are you showing the dividends?
Dividends.
So now you're in a place where you've done this, you've been successful, and you want to now be able to share that with other people so that they can move into their goal and their vision and their dream. So what have you started now?
Well, in the midst of like I mentioned earlier, being my husband's helpmate and in building the business, the vision that God gave him, God began to deal with me saying, Kenya, yes, you're here to be a helpmate and to build this Hustling Spirit business, but who are you? Who is the authentic Kenya Linton? And I didn't get to mention earlier, but by day, I'm a registered nurse. So I wear many, many hats. I'm a caregiver by nature. And it was just a moment in my life. And I remember being so vividly sitting in my office at work in my registered nurse role and just crying out to the Lord, why am I here? Why am I here? Yes, I have this Hustling Spirit business. Yes, I'm a registered nurse and I'm helping people, but I still felt like there was something more inside of me that I had yet to tap into. So he took me through a course of time where he actually had me uproot from being a registered nurse. And I left my corporate job. And that is where God began to deal with me with who are you and what I've called you to do. And during that time, that was when the Kenya Linton movement was birthed. And that's what TKL stands for. Who is the Kenya Linton? Who is she? Well, there's only one her, right? There's only one Gwen. So he began to show me that you are a natural exhorter. You empower people. You have an infectious personality. You just make people excited. And I've always been that type of person to ask a person, like, what do you do? They tell me what they do, but what do you really want to do? What do you love to do? What could you do and not get paid for? What makes you excited? So fast forward, during that course of time, God was really dealing with me, and I started an empowerment-based Instagram page, just posting empowerment, uplifting posts. And then God said, put it on a t-shirt. But I'm like, but God, but our t-shirts are just art. Our t-shirts aren't words. And God was like, well, I said what I said. So then we started with the TKO movement of t-shirts, just inspirational words in different, quotes that just uplift and empower. Fast forward to now, creating a networking mixer, which is near and dear to my heart, where we get into a room where we have speakers, we have performers, and the goal is to show mainly women, because women are my heart, but men are invited too, but that you can create impact and income with your gift, that you don't have to put a pause on your purpose for your paycheck, that you can have both and you can be successful and you can be fulfilled and you can be happy. So that is where we're up to now. We went from t-shirts, wristbands, now to mixers, empowerment mixers, encouraging people to go after their purpose and creating vision for them, showing them other people that look just like them that are out here doing it.
Again, I love it. But it goes back to what I said, God has given us all gifts and talents. He's already set forth a plan for us.
Yes.
We just have to begin to move in it. And we never have any idea or any clue of what that is until we start moving. So if there's no wristbands, there's no TKL movement, because you see, it kind of builds upon each other.
Yes.
And that's the thing, is like, God, he has to make sure that you're going to be a good steward over that thing that he gives you first. Can you handle it? Because he's not going to give you the plenty if you can't handle the little. And so a lot of times, people will despise those humble beginnings. Oh, wristbands. What's wristbands? Wristbands has taken you to where you are. Yes. So I just want to say that to once again encourage people. I don't care how big or how small it may seem to you. Yes. You don't know what God plans on doing with that thing. And you'll never know if you don't move.
That's right. That is so true.
So the TKL event is coming up. When is it going to take place?
Yes, so the TKL Business and Purpose Mixer is scheduled for Saturday, October 15th, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's in Westville, New Jersey. We are going to be, it's in the, it's called LMB Events, but it's inside the Verga Fire Hall right there in Westville, New Jersey.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more, like, what can people expect? And if someone is listening to this and they're in the area, why should they come?
Why should they come? I like to say that it's not your average mixer. It's an experience. And I'm not just saying that because I'm the host. people come up and talk about, just once they step in the room, just the energy and the positivity in the room by itself is infectious. But the things that you will visibly see is we have a plethora of vendors, a variety of vendors who are small business owners right here from our local South Jersey area, some from Philadelphia. All types of different, businesses will be represented there. Also, we have two amazing speakers. One is our lovely Gwen Goolsby Tillery will be one, and Tiffany Gay, two powerful, amazing women who have amazing stories of how they went from their start to where they are now. Also, we have a live vocalist who will sing an original song. We have a monologuist who is coming to do an original piece called I Am. And that is what the title of this mixer is. Each mixer, this is our third one. I didn't get to mention that, but this is our third one. And each mixer has a name. So this one is I Am. And what is after your I Am? So Monique Holmes will be our monologuist who will do an original piece. We have food vendors. We have dessert. We even have something for vegans. We have a juice vendor. We have so many. Every season we have the most amazing vendors that come out. And that's my heart, because I'm a vendor at heart. That's how we started, flipping our wristbands and our t-shirts, packing up our bags and being, so my vendors and my speakers and performers are just very special to me. So my goal is, I really want that person to walk in who knows that there's something inside that, like, I don't know where to begin, but comes in there, may hear the speaker or may hear the vocalist or may go to a vendor table and say, you know what, wow, that's actually what I would want to be doing. And somebody else is here doing it. So just to make those connections, to be empowered, to be inspired, and to know you have to do it scared. You're going to have to do it scared and just do it.
And listen, the other piece about it is, you said networking. And here's the reality of the situation. One of the reasons you may not have moved in whatever that thing is because you might not be surrounded by people who are entrepreneurial, at heart.
Yes.
They don't have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
When you mention starting a business or stepping out on faith about something like that, they look at you like, girl,
crazy.
Yes. Look, we're still in the pandemic,
Right.
and you begin to hear the negativity. And once you hear it, it kind of stops you and it halts you.
Yes.
The great thing about environments like that is that you end up with, we say the men are invited, but there's something amazing, I always say, that happens when a bunch of women, God-fearing women, come together that, love the Lord, love their sisters, and are about God's business as well as business. Some amazing things happen. It totally changes your perspective. It changes your attitude, and you walk out of there feeling like, you know what, I can do this too. And so that's another reason why you should attend this TKL Business Mixer. If you are listening to this and are in the South Jersey, Philadelphia, hey, even drive down from North Jersey or even Delaware. It's still only about 45 minutes to an hour. It's worth the drive, is what she's letting you know.
Yes.
So if someone is watching and they're interested in attending, they want to get a t-shirt, they want to find out more about you, how can they find you?
Yes, so the most quickest, most effective way to reach out to us is our website where you can get your tickets. It's www.hustlingspirit.com. You'll see the TKL flyer right there on the first page. You can get your tickets, a nominal fee of $24.99. You can't beat it. For all of this impact, you really can't beat it. You can also follow us on our social media platforms. We're Hustling Spirit right on Facebook. We're Hustling Spirit Clothing on Instagram. And if you want to follow the TKL movement, it's the Kenya Linton on IG as well. So that's where you can find us. And if you want to shoot us an email, info@hustlingspirit.com. You want more information, I'll be happy to give you whatever information you need. But like Gwen said, I'm telling you, this mixer has changed lives. People have come up to me afterwards and said, girl, I've gone back to school. I've gone ahead and started the business. I'm now a speaker because I saw your speaker tell her story. So many stories of inspiration and I can't take the credit. It's all God. It's all God. All I gave him was my yes. I am just his footman. That's it. That's it.
Absolutely. Exciting. So I'd like for my guests to always give a word of inspiration or encouragement or something that you can leave the listening, viewing audience with. So can you share something with us?
Well, I kind of gave it away a little bit earlier, and it's something that I continue to do, which is whatever it is that God has called you to do, he's already put everything inside of you to do it. You have the tools, you have the know-how, he's graced you for it. So one woman who is very wise to me told me, and she says it all the time, and I say it, do it scared. Do it scared. All you need to do is take the first step. I promise you, he will give you those next steps. He'll send the people. He'll give you the resources. He'll give you a divine download. But he just needs you to make that first faith step. Like the word says, it is without faith, it's impossible to please God. So if you just take that first faith step, even if it's just sending an email out to say, hey, how do you do X, Y, and Z? God will begin to send you those people, those resources, and the know-how. I promise you. I didn't go to school for business. I'm a nurse. I didn't go to school for fashion. I'm a nurse. But this is what he called us to do, and he's graced us for it and given us the resources to do it as well. Do it scared.
Do it scared. I love it. Yes. Once again, I thank you for joining us for this episode of Kingdom Inspiration News. I'm excited, looking forward to the TKL Business Mixer, and just wishing you much success in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is Bishop William Murphy. I want you to keep it locked right here on Kingdom Purpose TV.
Welcome to the Paradigm Shift. 60 seconds to help you transform your mind and your life. Mark 9:23 says, Jesus said to him, if you can believe, all things are possible to them that believe. Well, in order to believe, you must first know what the Word of God says. And so I encourage you each and every single morning when you wake up to find a scripture, to find a word that can help to establish how you are going to live out that day, because our mind has the power to make it a good day or a bad day. So get in the word and allow it to transform your mind, your life, as well as your day. That's the paradigm shift.
Hello and welcome to Kingdom Inspiration News. I am your host, Gwen Goolsby Tillery. As I mentioned in a previous episode a couple of weeks back, you know, September is Suicide Awareness Month, and this is something that I am really passionate about. Overall mental health is something that I'm passionate about, particularly, you know, for African Americans, particularly for, you know, the church. This has been such an area of stigma. And so the only, you know, the word tells us that we perish because of lack of knowledge. And so my goal is simply to be able to bring people on who can share their expertise and share knowledge so that we as an overall community can really begin to make an impact on mental health. And so I have the pleasure of having on Dr. Josephine Harris with me to be able to talk about kind of the state of mental health and where we are specifically as we are still in the pandemic, coming out of it, and how it's impacted our youth. And so welcome to the show, Dr. Jo Harris.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Gwen, for inviting me. I really do appreciate it.
So you have over 10 years of experience in mental health. Give us a little bit of background first about yourself. Like, who are you? Where are you from? Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am the mental health expert. I'm originally from Savannah, Georgia, but now I reside in Washington State. I am an international psychology as well as a certified mental health wellness coach. I'm also the vice president of the Herpreneur Network as well. I am a 10-time best-selling author as well as a 4-time international best-selling author. As a mental health coach, I am a military spouse as well. And I help women, particularly military spouses, to find their self-identity so that they can come from behind the shadow of their husband, so that they can have the growth professionally and personal growth. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay. So how did you, 10 years, like I said, over 10 years of experience in the mental health field, how did you find yourself in this field? Was this something that you've always been interested in, or was it something, interest or desire you developed later on?
You know, Gwen, the funny thing is that I never thought I would dream of being in the mental health professional because, as you know, I was a teen mom, and straight out of high school, I went into nursing. So I am an RN, but it was that the thought of, I knew that I was going to have a job in that field, so I pursued nursing in the RN, and within that field, it started to drain the energy out of me. And I noticed when I tell you, when you are unhappy doing what you're doing, it works. You work even harder. So during that time, I was not happy of being a nurse. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go into another field that I like, that I know that will help people, will help brown and black people, and plus my family have a plethora of mental health issues in the family, whether it's from anxiety, ADHD, depression as well. And being a military spouse and going through different challenges in my life, I like, you know what? Maybe the field that going into the mental health field will help me, and I know that I love to help people. So I wanted to really know what depression and anxiety is, and what causes it. Is it more in the black community? Is it more in another community? Is it more dealing with African Americans? So that really brought me into becoming a mental health professional.
Okay, great. Similar here. Except I actually decided pretty early I wanted to enter the field of mental health. And so when I went to get my BA is actually in psychology. But I actually took a long break from it and then found myself being pulled back into it because, like you, I was working with youth and adolescents, and I saw so many issues stemming around mental health, and I was like, wow, I guess this was something that I was supposed to be in, but kind of took a break from it, returned back to it. And so let's talk about, depression and anxiety and those things. So we are coming out of this pandemic, and we know that it has taken a toll on so many people. There were so many losses that took place during COVID, the loss of loved ones, the loss of jobs, the loss of security, so many things happen. And as a result of that, we know that the numbers for anxiety and depression, which unfortunately was already on the rise, significantly rose more. So give us your perspective on, what's happening in terms of mental health, why it continues to impact some communities so much more than others.
Well, with mental health, it has grown. In dealing with mental health issues, it has grown. And sometimes the brown and black people like me and you go through a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety during the pandemic. But we don't know how. It's the lack of education from a lot of perspectives. Sometimes we don't know what resources are out there for us. Sometimes we don't know what it is to be depressed. And sometimes, as we was coming up, I'm going way back, as we was coming up, and Your parents telling you, okay, you feel like you feeling sad, you feeling down, they'll tell you, well, you suck it up. We're going to pray about it and we're going to let it go. So they rake it under the rug, but you still have that depression and you still have that anxiety. So back in the day, they didn't know nothing about getting therapy. They don't want you to seek therapy because in our community, call it weak. So we have so much stimulus on mental health in our community because they lack of knowledge, lack of education, and they think that going to a therapist, you are considered crazy. And you have to be careful with certain words you use and certain things you use because you never know what people are going through. And I know that God, as our generation and going back to our ancestors, they pray about a lot of things. They have the rituals and all these and these herbs and stuff like that. But you have to think about it. Times has changed, and God put certain people in your path to help you through these obstacles and challenges you're going through in life. Although the Bible is there and God told you to pray about depression and pray about anxiety, but you also need the help of a professional to guide you and give you the strategy so that you can overcome these challenges in your life.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it does have to do with our upbringing and, just the stigma, like you said, the stigma of it. As you speak, I hear, different phrases come to mind. One of the things I think that, and I've said this before, that impacts us is that, we were a community of, what stays in the house, what goes on in the house, stays in the house, and then like you said, all right, your feelings is hurt, get over it. Like, how many of us heard that, like, okay, well, get over it. But the thing about it is so many of us did not get over it. We are still dealing with the trauma of our childhood. And we are being told that all we need to do is have greater faith or pray a little more. And we're not doing the work to actually resolve the issues or the problems. So what as a community that has all these stigmas and all these beliefs around mental health, how do we begin the process of beyond what we're doing now, and in this small way? What can we do? What do you think needs to be done to begin to shift the thinking and the narrative in our communities as it relates to mental health?
One of the things that we can work on is educating our community, educating them, explaining to them what is mental health. Because guess what? When you feeling sick, you have a headache or you have high blood pressure, you go to the doctor to get that check on. So dealing with going to the a therapist, going to a counselor to get your mental health check on. Mental counseling and therapy is not just for people that have to go through challenges. Sometimes people need help along the way. Sometimes people have difficulty going through life. Sometimes they have stressors that they don't know how to cope with. So as mental health professional, we teach them coping mechanism. Sometimes our coping mechanism might lead to other people might think is a coping mechanism leading to addiction. Like, you can have so many addictions, like addiction to education, addiction to drugs, addiction to smoking, addiction to sex, addiction to porno. So certain things we have to teach. We have to educate people about mental health and what is mental health for and why it's so important. Because dealing with mental health as a whole is very important. It's like you going to the doctor to get your foot checked on when your foot broke, or you going to the doctor to get your arm checked on. So you have to go to the doctor. You have to go to a therapist to understand your mind, your challenges that you're going through, how you react to stressors. What are some different things that you can do so that you be prepared for the challenging time that you go through in life?
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you said in terms of mental health and wellness. That's the other piece. Is sometimes we go and we seek a therapist so that we can remain well. So that we don't start to experience the anxiety and we don't want to experience the depression. And so we can go to someone that we can express our feelings to, that we can talk to, that we can get feedback from. That's a neutral person. Yes, of course, we have our family and, we have our friends. We may have our leaders, in different positions, whether it be at church or other places. But sometimes we need to be able to go to that neutral party, that person who is unbiased, who doesn't know you, and can really give you good, sound, solid guidance and direction for you to be able to move forward in life. So that's an excellent point too. Don't always think of therapy or counseling as for people who, are suffering from some significant mental health problem. Sometimes we just need to go again so that we don't begin to suffer from the issue, because if there's something that's bothering us, everyone can have a little depression or a little anxiety, but when it begins to take over your life, when something that happened 3 years ago is still causing you some level of anxiety, is something that needs to be dealt with. So it's better, the expression, nip it in the bud from the beginning instead of letting it grow and fester, because sometimes, it's just not going to go away. It's not going to disappear. And we need to get comfortable with expressing our feelings. So one of the other areas that has really been impacted over the last couple of years is our youth and adolescent suicide rates and issues around mental health and depression. Realistically, there was a time, honestly, in our community that we didn't have as many teens dealing with particularly suicide. Well, the numbers are changing and they're rising drastically. And so that's the area that we must really begin to address. And again, that's going to require us educating parents, educating, the churches, the leaders, really having people understand that our youth are walking around with a lot of issues that are unresolved and not dealt with. So what's your take and, your spin on what's happening with our youth and adolescents, why you feel like the rates may be rising significantly?
Wow. We went through a time in the pandemic, and we went through a time where the youth has to really transition to online classes and not being sociable with their peers. And it's difficult for a youth and to really sit home online for several hours and not socializing with their peers. So the rates of suicide has gone up, the depression rates has gone up, as well as anxiety. So now it's very difficult for our teens to equip to the lifestyle that they was used to, of socializing, hanging out with friends, going to these after school events, sport events. And when the pandemic hit, their whole life was really transitioned into isolating world. And what I mean isolating world is that they, although it's their home, they see people on Zoom, but it's not really good. It's different when you see people on Zoom than in person. So the suicide rates is going up. And then think about it. After the pandemic hit, and then everything is getting back into place, then they got to equip all over again with socializing. How are they socializing? What is their interaction with others? Then you got to think about dealing with cyberbullying, and you got to think about, okay, do we supposed to dress like this? Do they supposed to dress like this? So they trying to equip the social world back into the norms, as we call it norms, but nothing is never norm now. So dealing with the physical, dealing with the emotional, dealing with the psychological and relationship among the youth has really triggered the youth to be depression and have anxiety, because now sometimes they fear of getting COVID. Sometimes they fear of getting sick. You have other youth going through anxiety as they go through different changes in their life. Is like, okay, then you got to think about it. You have a parent that is germ phobic, and they teaching their children, okay, you got to wear your mask at all times. Don't take your mask off. Don't you go get sick. Don't do this. Don't you get sick. If you take your mask off, you're going to get COVID. So that is planted in our youth head. And now they have anxiety about touching other people, about being around other people, about talking around other people. So now they in the effect of having anxiety. I had one of my young clients was at the age of 7. she had so much anxiety about going back into the school because her parent put that on her, because that her parent was telling her, if you take your mask off, you're gonna get sick. If you play with your friends, you're gonna get sick. So putting that pressure on a youth, a child that young, can cause very stressful and anxiety situations. So when I say parents, you have to really be careful of what you put into your child. You have to really be careful of what you're telling them. You have to really watch their behaviors as well, because children go through a lot of things and they tell you that they don't feel too good or they sad, but sometimes as parents, we don't listen too well to our kids. You know, that old saying, what you do what I say, not you do what I say. Okay.
Not what I do. Right. Not what I do. Do what I say and not what I do. But yeah, absolutely. We're in a different generation now. You know, as it relates to everything, you know, Google changed up the world.
Yes.
Because now it's easy. You can obtain information and knowledge if you have the desire in a heartbeat. Like literally, you can go to Google and search. I could go to Google right now and I could pull up statistics on pretty much anything and everything. So our knowledge base has changed in terms of how quickly we can obtain knowledge, but we seem to be stuck in some kind of time warp sometimes as it relates to our knowledge and as it relates to mental health specifically. I just want to add a couple of other components as it relates to that, about the whole mask wearing and everything. You know, so the parent has said to the child, listen, you need to wear your mask. You have to wear your mask. Don't take off your mask. Then the child gets in school, especially right now. You know, I still am within the educational field. So, and I have colleagues, my husband. So I'm getting a sense like, you know, are people wearing masks? The majority of people are not wearing masks. So now you as a child, whether you be 7 years old or 17-year-old, your parent has instilled in you, you got to wear this mask. You have to wear this mask to protect yourself. And then you get into the school building. None of the adults are really wearing masks. None of your peers are wearing masks. So now you put the mask on and now you have to deal with the pressure of looking different.
Looking different, yeah.
Because you're walking around with the mask. And then, you know, people are like, oh, I can't believe he's still wearing or she's still wearing a mask. There's just so much pressure on our youth and adolescents, again, as a result of what happened in the pandemic. But even prior to that, so this is like there's a good conversation between two people in mental health. What I think about, and I explain to people, and I'm talking about a particular population of kids, you know, I'm talking about youth that are in, you know, some of the most impoverished areas within our country. You know, literally, we have kids suffering from PTSD. And people would say, well, what do you mean? Well, let me give you an example. So little John, who lives in one of the poorest communities in the area, often has one of the highest crime areas in the community. And in order for him to get to school, he has to walk. And on his way to school, he witnesses the drug addicts, the drug dealers, you know, he witnesses, even worse, he hears gunshots. Even worse, he might witness someone getting shot. And this is something that occurs day in and day out. And you don't think that there's some PTSD there? And so now this child arrives into a school system and you wonder why they're distracted and can't learn. You have no idea what it took for them to even enter into that building. And so mental health goes deep in many communities. The issues and the problems run deep. And so it will truly take a community. It will really take a village to be able to deal with all the issues that surround our youth and adolescents. And then, like I said, the reality is that We are in an information age. They are exposed to so much more than we were exposed to. Even just cutting on the TV can be traumatizing now. What you see, what you experience, what you hear. My husband and I will sit and watch TV and we'll be like, oh, they can say that now on TV? Oh, wow, they're doing that now on TV? So kids are exposed to so much more. And even though they're exposed to it, it doesn't mean they're ready for it.
That is so true.
It doesn't mean they're ready for it. You know, there's developmental stages that children are supposed to go through. And unfortunately, the way this society is set up right now, they're experiencing things at the earliest stages that they should not be experiencing. And it's definitely creating anxiety, it's creating depression, it's creating worry, it's creating PTSD. So our goal is simply with this conversation is to bring awareness for a parent who has a child, whether it be a 7-year-old, like I said, or a 17-year-old. What are some of the signs that parents can watch for to see, you know, whether or not their child is experiencing anxiety or depression or any other issues? What can they watch out for, be mindful of?
One of the things, and I tell a lot of parents when I talk to them about children, young children, youth dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety and PTSD, most of the times, one of the things you need to watch for their behaviors. If their behaviors start changing, if they stop doing things that they used to love to do, if they start isolating themselves from friends or isolating themselves from family, or even if they start giving away the most important things that mean to them. Say, for instance, you have a child that loves games and he starts giving away games, or he starts saying, Mom, I don't want to play this game anymore. But you know that they love gaming. So you have to watch out for those behaviors. Take the time to really listen to your children, because as parents, we tend to not really listen, but hear them. And we just blow it off like, okay, you'll be okay. You'll be all right. You're just going through a difficult time. Don't take it seriously. Don't talk it up to saying that they're going through puberty. Don't talk it up to say they're going through a challenging time in their life, or they just acting out because of this. Because most kids act out because something is going on.
Absolutely.
Don't think that the kids acting out, oh, they just bad. No, kids don't be bad just to be bad. There's something really going on with that child. So we have to watch for these behaviors. Watch for, especially when you have a child that was an extrovert and now they're an introvert. Something is really going on with that child. Sometimes, and then you have to think about, what are they going through? They might be being bullied. Be involved. For me, be involved. And I have adult children. And when they was younger and when they was in school, I was always involved because I want to know what's going on. Although the teachers are there to help your child, but they are there not to raise your children. So be involved in your children's lives in school. Go to the school, see what's going on with the teacher. Get communication with the teacher. I'm telling you, be in communication with the teacher. Because the more you communicate with the teacher, the more the teacher will even tell you about your child. Because they'll see us changing your behavior on your child behavior. So that's the most important thing, is be involved in your child life and listen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. We actually were both a part of a recent conference that was dealing with childhood barriers. And one of the things that I said is that you have to recognize as a parent, even though there are so many negative influences out there, you are still one of your child's biggest influences. And so what you say and what you do matters. We can't use that expression about say. We can't use the expression that we mentioned before in terms of do as I say and not as I do. I was like, I'll get it right. Because kids, listen, we're dealing with a different type of generation now. We have to be the example. We have to lead. We have to lead in love is what I said. And love is not a feeling, it's action. We've got to take action and let our kids know that we're there, we're concerned, that we love them. For any parent that's listening, or any youth or any adolescent that might hear this, there is help available. There is help. There is hope. No matter how bad it seems, there is hope. If you are looking for help, you dial the number 988. 988, anywhere, and someone will come on and be able to help you. I just want you to know that. Do you have any more information or anything else that you would like to say in terms of mental health?
And you know, and like you said, they made it more easier for you to dial 988, because it used to be the 1-800 number. So they made it more easier for you to dial 911 just in case you get an emergency. And then guess what? It's anonymous. You don't have to really say your name. They are there to listen to you. And with our youth, you have to pay attention to their reaction, their action, and how they react to you and how they respond to you. And dealing with mental health is it's resources out here for us to educate about mental health, even going to the schools and all that. And parents, make sure that you know your school counselor, because the counselors are there for a reason. And every school has a counselor, a child psychologist, a child psychology, and a school social worker. Because sometimes it's very important for our children to know that they have resources out there. Because sometimes as parents, we're not the easiest people to talk to. Our children, we are very difficult parents to talk to. Think about now, when we was coming up, we didn't want to talk to our parents because they was very difficult to talk to. Because they'll tell you, you know what, you just acting like, go sit down somewhere, you'll get over it. And which child want to hear that? They just want their parents to listen and to help them the best way that they could. So the parents also should know the resources, just in case. If you tell your child, if you don't feel like talking to me and you feel not comfortable talking to me, then there are school resources there. So make sure your child know the school resources there. Make sure that that the teachers are there for them as well, because you don't really have to talk to the teacher. You can go to the school counselor. So be very aware and self-aware of certain mental health issues that's going out there. Educate yourself. There are also a lot of resources. And in the Black community, in the brown Black community, sometimes it's hard because of the funding. But it's funding out there. It's also funding for us out there. It's Medicaid, Medicare, is low income funding. It's free resources out there as well.
You just have to take the first step to be able to find it. But it's there. It's there, and you need to know that it's okay to access it. That's the other piece. Know that it's there, and know that it doesn't make you weak or less than a person to go and access those services. So great conversation. I hope that, these words will help someone and, just make people more aware of all that people are dealing with, particularly right now. So before we end out, you are involved in so many things. You mentioned being an author. Want to share some upcoming events or things that you might have coming up soon?
Sure. I have coming up, I'm going to be speaking with Shay Brown on the Comeback Champion 6.0 as well. I'm also have an event coming up next year in May, which is called the Breaking Change Experience, where I speak about how the change are broken. So a group of us women is going to have that as a retreat. So I also have a retreat in Las Vegas, talk about the virtual girls. So it's like a women retreat where you can get some self-care, dealing with a lot of mental health challenge they went through. So we're giving them a lot of self-care, a lot of inspiration, and I'm helping them through the mental health challenges as well. Also, I am also on multiple book project. We got the newest anthology project that came out is Live Your Life Out, Live Your Faith Out Loud, which is one of the ones is the visionary is Dorothy Wilson. I also have one called the CEO of Entrepreneur, which is the visionary is by Tiffany D. Bell as well. So we have a plethora of events going on. I also have a plethora of events going on with the Herpreneur Network, where I'm the vice president of the network. We have the Her Awards that's going to be in Atlanta as well. So, and we just had a wonderful for retreat called the Her Retreat. It is Christian women in business. It has been dynamic. I'm telling you, it changed my whole life. It teaches women how to overcome challenges as they're going through as entrepreneur as well. But you can connect with me on all social media, Dr. Joe Harris. I also have a mental health blog where I talk about the challenges as a military spouses and what mental health challenges that I ran through as a military spouse throughout my career and out my husband's career as well. And how did I overcome them? It's called Healthy Hearts and Minds blog, where I talk about a lot of that as well. And all my books is on my website is www.commonmindsllc.com. And that's a lot going on, but hey.
Well, again, thank you for coming on to be able to have a little dialogue about, the state of mental health, particularly, in the African American community, and some of the things that we can begin to do to break free of the stigma and really be able to make an impact and change so that people can get the help they need. Once again, it's available. If you don't know where to turn, just simply pick up your phone and dial the number 988. It is a 24-hour hotline. Okay, it's called the Lifeline, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, 988. So I thank you for being on, and continued blessings to you.
Thank you so much, Gwen. I really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.
This is Amethyst, and I'm right here with Gwen with Kingdom Purpose TV.
Like to be a guest, please send an email to GwenTillery@KingdomPurposeTV.com.